Okay, I see it's 9 o'clock. We'll call this meeting to order. Welcome, everybody, to the Iowa 911 Communications Council meeting for August 8th, 2019. We'll start with introductions of our council, starting on that end, please.
James Chambers, CenturyLink, representing Large Telecom.
Blake DeRucci, Iowa Homeland Security and Emergency Management, 911 Program Manager.
Tracy Bearden, representing Iowa NENA, Polk County Emergency Management.
Angie Dobbins, representing Iowa APCO, Potawatomi County 911.
Lawrence Hart-Pence, representing IJIC.
Rob Rotter, representing Iowa State Sheriff's Deputy Association.
Mike Bryant, representing the Iowa Professional Firefighters.
Rob Dennett, representing the Iowa EMS Association.
George Griffith, Iowa Peace Officers Association.
Mark Murphy, Dubuque County 911, representing the Iowa Firefighters Association.
Carol Lund Smith, Iowa Law Enforcement Academy. Kara Sorrells, Washington County 911.
Dwayne Boss with Raycom.
Cody Brink with Zetron.
Darren Riney, Westcom.
Brian Madewell, Westcom.
Susan Damon, Iowa State Sheriffs and Deputies Association.
Brandon Miller-Gus, Medic EMS and Iowa NENA President.
Amanda Roush, Story County 911.
Mel Burton, Ringo County EMA and 911.
Okay, he's on here.
Mike Lauer, ICN.
Jim Lundstedt with the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency.
Long version.
Joel Martin, Utilities Board.
Mike Foster, FEMA Region 7.
Doug McCaslin, Warren County 911.
Connie Steffelbeam, DPS.
Stephen Rodriguez, ICN.
Tammy Rodriguez, ICN.
Chris Myers, I'm the SWIC.
Brent Long, Polk County Sheriff.
Crystal McIntyre, Warren County Board of Supervisors.
Steve Reams, Zetron.
Jason Studi, Pot County 911.
Diane Seifert, South Central Iowa.
Okay, and who do we have on the phone?
Robbie Johannesson, representing DPS.
John Drury, CenturyLink.
Brenda Vandervoort, Fayette County 911.
H. Maitzel, Iowa County 911.
Harry Dean, Iowa County.
Overnet Comtech.
Okay, welcome, everyone. Starting off, could I get a motion to approve today's agenda?
So moved. Second.
Right. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Motion carries. And likewise for the July 11th, 2019 minutes. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Against? Against? Motion carries. Okay. I would like to receive nominations for council secretary. Do I have any nominations? Well, I will prod folks into knowing that Kara has volunteered to act as our secretary if we so desire, but she wanted to make sure that there wasn't somebody else that might be interested. So if there is somebody else that would like to make a nomination or perhaps nominate Kara, that would be awesome.
I nominate Kara as secretary.
Okay. Any other nominations? Okay. So I guess, do I need a motion to do that? I guess, could I have a motion to nominate or to elect Kara as our secretary?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kara. All right, Blake.
Pass those around. Should have had about enough copies for everyone. But it's also on our website. If you're ever curious, those reports are on our website as well. So just to hit a couple highlights, it's formatted about the same with what you're familiar with. We received $7.5 million in quarterly surcharge revenue. You total up all the bills, and it was payments were about $5.8 million. The unique part of the end of the fourth quarter is it's also the end of the year. So we did our end of the year payment calculation. In previous years, the legislature had given us a starting point. You call it a cap, call it a starting point, whatever you want to call it. But we knew the number that we were going to pass through at the end of the year. This year was a little bit different. There wasn't that cap or starting point. So we had to come up with the number ourselves. So when you factor in the encumbrances and obligations and contracts that we have signed and documented, we ended up passing about $3.6 million through to service boards for the PSAPs. That comes out to about $32,000 per PSAP. You should be receiving those checks either the end of the week or beginning of next week. So you'll really be receiving two checks about the same time. The first one you'll receive is your normal quarterly payment. That should be in line with what you receive first, second, third quarter. And then depending on the number of PSAPs in your service board, about another payment of about $32,000 per PSAP. Any questions on that process or on the expenditure report? The only thing I'll point out on my other handout, the actual payments to the PSAPs, again, just with Chickasaw County, you'll see the asterisks there. That is their total amount that they should have received. Because they have not submitted their expenditure collection form from 2018, we still have to withhold 35%. So they are now up to about $20,000 that we have withheld for 2 quarters worth of payments. They know that. We've been communicating with them. Still no form. So as soon as they submit that form, as long as it's before March 31st, they get their withheld payments. So they still have a little bit of time. But it's up to them. Any questions on that? Okay. Moving on to the rest of the program manager report. I talked about this previously, but everything has really been finalized now. So the National 911 office is coming the week of September 9th to do a peer assessment. We did a self-evaluation and previously, and I want to reiterate my thanks to those who helped with the self-evaluation. The Tuesday of that week, I have to give a presentation to the assessors, basically recapping the 200 pages I submitted to them as part of the self-evaluation. And then on the Thursday of that week, actually basically right after this meeting and the ISIX meeting, the assessors will be providing their report. So that is both a written documented report, but as well as a presentation. So everyone is invited. I sent that out last week. It'll be at the State EOC, so it will be a change of location from this facility. But all are invited. It'll be starting at noon on September 12th at the State EOC. Talked about the previous years of collection for PSAP data. The new year is underway as well with 2019 PSAP expenditure collection. Sent that new form out last week. That is due to our office January 1st, and as you could tell, it is tied to surcharge if it's submitted late. So the only changes to that form were just a couple of the administrative fields. None of the actual financials had changed at all. So just looking for a couple more pieces of administrative data. And again, that's really directly tied to the FCC report that I have to submit, as well as the National 911 Office has a report. So just some additional data. It's like call taker screens and total call takers that PSAPs have. So those are the two small changes to that form. Again, you can submit that to our office at any point now. Along those same lines, because that form is auditable, and it's done every 2 years by the state auditor's office, that audit is commencing. I know a couple PSAPs have actually already even gotten emails from the state auditor's office looking to begin that process. It is a legitimate email. One of the questions was asking if it was spam or legitimate, and it's legitimate. I think they've picked about 10 to 15 PSAPs to audit. A couple of those are on-site audits. A couple of them are more like desk audits. So they will be auditing the 2017 and 2018 submissions. October 14th, I know it's Columbus Day, is going to be a statewide 911 program update. That's kind of in conjunction with Iowa, APCO, and NENA. Those are the 15th and 16th. Mine will be the 14th. I'll get the registration out shortly with all the meeting information. Normally we've done that in the afternoon, kind of thinking the same thing on this one. So that's just a day where we can kind of get together, spend the afternoon together, talk about upcoming changes to the program, talk about grants, financials, just a kind of really good look at the program as a whole. Talked last month about the need for statewide alley. That contract has been signed with Comtech. So they, as well as ICN, will actually be providing an update here in a little bit on the wireline migration process in general. At this point, I am happy to report that every single legal document has been signed, so we can actually really get underway with those two projects. So those have been a long time coming, and a lot of work is being done behind the scenes, but you should actually start to see some progress as far as the wireline migration goes. 2020 GIS grants, again, the benchmarks are listed there. In July, 8 counties met the benchmarks for a total of $48,000. And speaking with GeoCom, a lot of counties meet the benchmarks currently. They just need to submit their data again. So remember, part of this is you submit it the first 6 months of the year, you get your grant funds. You submit it the second part of the year, you get your grant funds. So even if your data meets the benchmarks from a couple months ago, you have to resubmit. The Travel Public Education and Training Fund, no one applied this month, so that you'll have nothing to review. But the message then to everyone in the audience is that there is still about $73,000 remaining for the year that you can apply for public education and training. That concludes my portion, although Zetron is here as well as ICN and Comtech is on the phone to talk about the virtual consolidation efforts. Are there any other questions for me? Yes, Mike.
Yeah, I know it's impossible, and I know we're already in the year, so I don't think the legislation, there's any changes, but I know I'm gonna get the question this fall when people start doing budgets, but if you looked into the crystal ball, are there any big things that you see, pluses or minuses, that would potentially change the $32,000 number, we'll call it?
That's a good question. The infrastructure for the virtual consolidation is in place. So that was a big payment that we had to do in fiscal year 19. So that will be off the table in 2020. However, we have the alley contract coming up in 2020, so that'll kind of offset. So that's my way of saying I would guess about the same. Okay. With, try not to hold me to it. It's a long year, but I would guess about the same would get passed through.
Okay. And then other comment I would just make is October 14th is also the 53rd anniversary of the F5 tornado for Belmont, Iowa.
There you go. I'll have to remember that.
As of a survivor of 7th grade getting a haircut.
Any other questions? All right, if not, I have Zetron going next. It's up there, yeah. You can just hit the arrow.
Excellent. Thank you, Blake. Cody Brink with Zetron. Given just a quick and brief update on everything that's going on here for the 911 project. Oh, there she goes. Okay. Okay, so currently we have 38 PSAPs that have signed up for the program on the letter of intent. 14 of those have signed or are not either deployed or on the deployment schedule. And then also on the notable updates is with Blake and the state's additional services being funded. Not only is the CPE call taking being funded, but also pre-answer call taking mapping and also logging recorder have also been added on to the services. So on the call taking mapping on the pre-calling, basically what this is doing is this is allowing for PSAPs to be able to see where the location is of a inbound phone call that allows for them to be able to manage multiple phone calls quickly and easily with that. So it's a great tool that Blake has brought on the program to help PSAPs do their job easier, better, quicker. The other portion.
The folks at home, if you could please mute your phone, please.
The other portion on there is the 911 logging recorder. With the state funding the 911 logging recorder on the 911 phone calls, this allows basically a Google search portion of it for all of the 911 inbound calls that allows you to search it by user, position, time, all that type of information is quickly and easily available and now available for the PSAPs. Any questions? Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Stephen Rodriguez with the Iowa Communications Network. As Blake said, that CAMA services contract is finally signed. It was signed this week. So now we're going to start rolling on different things. We've already been in communication with CenturyLink. We're putting our meetings together so that we can formalize a formal plan to present to you sometime soon. We are working on setting up redundant and paths and also diverse paths so that we can connect. And those are the orders that we're going to be submitting soon after we get those worked out with CenturyLink. And when I mean soon, it'll be in the next week. We'll get those orders and they'll start moving on that. The ICN ourselves are working on doing the redundancy on our part, and that should be finished up next month. So we're going to be all set and ready to go for once CenturyLink has their points of interconnect complete as well. The next steps, we'll be working on a joint outreach, and I'd like to state to the council too that there's several different vendors that are involved here, and we all are working together. There's been open communication, even through not having contracts signed yet, where we were working on different things that we could work on, and everyone has been cooperative, and we're working well together. So I want to make sure that I state that to you, and I don't see any issues that will come up in the future as far as communication is concerned. Are there any questions? No. Oh. So, Bill, you're on the line, correct?
This is Bill Burnett from Comtech. Comtech, we've been working with Blake, of course, and ICN in regards to understanding, and developing a deployment plan. Of course, we've moved Allie into phase one of a project. It requires a large effort, set up equipment, fully test the system, and ensure that deployment of PSAPs on a PSAP by PSAP basis can be done so smoothly. And so that is all, we have a project manager course that's been assigned, a full schedule that has, as a draft, has been developed. That's awaiting executive approval on our end before we release the plan to Blake, which should be coming very soon. And it includes all of that phase one to test, ensure carriers are loading records properly and in a timely manner, and so forth. And hopefully we'll be able to release that soon for general distribution.
Any questions for either of us?
Thank you. Did you have anything else, Blake? Okay. Moving on, Blake's already mentioned that we do not have any training fund requests. Do we have any technical advisories? Nope. Okay. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to the rest of the council. Just some quick housekeeping from the board. All the applications at last month's ISIX-B meeting for ISIX Access were approved. This includes Audubon County, Blakesburg Fire and Rescue, City of Cedar Rapids, Dickinson County Emergency Management for Level 2, Henry County Sheriff Level 1, Pella PD Level 1, and the various Polk County agencies Level 1. I forgot to mention Audubon was Level 2 and Blakesburg Fire and Rescue was Level 1. Today on the agenda for ISIX Access, we have an update to Adair and Guthrie for Level 4 access, City of Atkins Level 2, Aurelia Fire Department Level 2, Iowa County Level 1, and the U.S. Probationary Office of the Southern District of Iowa Level 1 access. Those will be up for approval today. Update on the PSAP grant and the consulates and control stations. They're being rolled out. There's maybe just over a dozen that have not yet been delivered or picked up yet. So we'll be reaching out to those counties very soon to make sure that they can get their equipment. The test calls across the state are ongoing. We had several last week and some more scheduled this week. Not everybody has had a chance to get their equipment picked up or delivered to them or get it installed. We're working on makeup dates for those test calls to make sure that everybody's grant compliant. And every intention is to be as flexible as we possibly can with those test calls. We know that various vendors are operating on different schedules. PSAPs have different people available to actually do the tests. And then, of course, any unforeseen variables that come up to play that always seem to surface. So we will be flexible with everybody on those test calls, and we'll get them all in. Housekeeping update from some of our ongoing projects. We have an interstate interoperability agreement that's up for approval at the board meeting today also with the state of Illinois. I know we have several PSAPs that border Illinois, and the thought process here is if they want to access STARCOM 21, which is their statewide network for interoperability, they'll be able to. Conversely, the Illinois agencies will be able to access ISIX for interop as well. So hopefully that'll start kind of blurring the lines between our states slightly when it comes to emergency communications. We're ongoing our discussions with Missouri. They've indicated to us that they will reciprocate the same offer we're giving them with them, their agencies being able to join ISIX for interop. And it looks like we'll be able to do the same with them also. As far as, training that the ISIX board is offering, our PSAP cybersecurity webinar is coming up on the morning of August 19th. We expect to have a link for that relatively soon, and once we have that, it will be sent out. Currently, we have about 65 registered attendees, and we can handle up to 100. My hope is that we can get all those seats filled because cybersecurity is an emerging and ongoing target to try to achieve, and we'd like to see all the PSAPs possible sign up for that. We're going to make every effort to record it as well, so it's available after the fact, so that if some dispatchers were out of the office that day or some IT staff that wanted to see it couldn't make it, that'll be hopefully available after it's over. And if we are able to record it and make it available for further consumption, we'll let everybody know. Our CompT class signup is available on the HSCMD website as well. That'll be held in Clarinda. The details are on that website. Look for some information coming up on our COML and INTD courses. We're looking to have those towards the end of the calendar year. Skip, we are working on refreshing our skip. If you remember, when we did this last time in 2017, it was before ISIX was built out. It was before the state had made the decision to opt into FirstNet, and there's been an update to the National Emergency Communications Plan for 2019. This work is to refresh the skip, basically put a fresh coat of paint on it and align it with that new emergency communications plan that's out there nationally. So we're in alignment with all those initiatives. It's not an overhaul, it's just minor updates to the goals and some objectives that the board is looking at to improve interoperability across the state, and that work is progressing nicely. We're expecting to have kind of a wrap-up webinar on the 30th of August, and then possibly an in-person meeting if necessary in September. So with that, I'll take any questions.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we'll have a update from Jim Lundstedt.
Good morning. Echoing a couple of the things that Chris reported to the board, or to the council rather. The cybersecurity awareness webinar, I've been working with the regional cybersecurity administrator for CISA, and we have a pretty interesting brief. We showed a couple of snapshots out of it to the SWICs last week in Little Rock. I think it will be well worth your time if you have the opportunity to attend or review it after it's recorded. There are some things that have happened just in the last week that are notable. Google search cyber attacks against dispatch centers. It's probably worth reading about a couple of incidents in the US and understanding that the threat vector is constantly changing. I think everybody's heard about state of Louisiana declared a state of emergency after a series of cyber attacks against school districts. This is a constantly evolving threat, and it's something that we have to remain vigilant about. There is even talk in the last couple of days disclosing that there is a new type of malware out there that is fileless in nature, which means that it can infect your device or your laptop or your computer simply by being resident. In other words, open a browser, open a file. There's nothing executable that your antivirus can see. Therefore, it's a new type of threat. So we're studying how to best combat that with the FBI CyberWatch division. The SCIP workshop that Chris talked about is intended to be conducted the first week of September, same week as the 911 Council peer review. We're hoping to hold a meeting on September 10th and 11th. Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, 2 half-day meetings just to review the goals and objectives, get it in final form so it can be presented to the board on the 12th. With that, I'll take any questions or follow-up as needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, up next, 34A Administrative Code Committee update.
I do want to apologize. I had to take some medical leave, so my deliverables I was going to have promised for this month will be pushed to next month, but I do have one recommended change that the committee did decide to push through that they agreed upon. So I have that for you. I am unsure what the rules are in terms of, because this is just going to be a recommendation to Blake and his office, whether we need the 30 days or not. But it's what they want to do is they want to codify the hospitals that we approved already as an advisory opinion from this council. And so what they did is they said each political subdivision of the state having a public safety agency serving territory to include benefit fire districts and county hospitals providing ambulance services as defined in 357B and 347 respectively, and each local emergency management agency as defined in 29C.2 operating within the area is entitled to voting membership on the 911 Service Board. So that is the recommendation to be pushed forth to Blake and his office to update the Chapter 34A.
Tracy, I wonder if it wouldn't be beneficial for us maybe to take the 30 days, and the reason I say that is if we could maybe have a comparison of what the language was previous to what it is being recommended
Yes.
so everyone can appreciate
And
that
I will
change.
send that out to everybody when I get back to the office, so you can have that side-by-side comparison.
Okay, and then I will make sure, well, it'll be on the agenda through the report, but I'll make a note in the agenda that this will be an actionable item. then.
Okay, perfect.
And just one point of clarification as well. This is the way that we've interpreted code for a couple years now. When we've worked with our Attorney General to define political subdivision, which is what's in code, when we look at, do they have open public elections? Are they a taxing authority? The qualifiers that make an entity a political subdivision, we've applied that term to these type of entities anyway, but I think this could make it a little bit more solid, a little bit more clear for everyone. But like I said, we've already kind of extended that political subdivision cloak to these type of entities, just working with the Attorney General's office. So as people are thinking, does this add or subtract anything to a service board? For the last couple of years, they should have already been on the service board.
Right. Okay. Anything else, Tracy?
Nope, that's it. But I will have some ideas about increased membership, but also some of the best practices and things for you to look at for the next meeting as well. So I'll be getting those hopefully next week, late next week to you guys.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone to give a report on the baseline knowledge for 911 Communication Professional Committee? I don't know if we have anybody here or on the phone.
Jamie emailed me and he said he wasn't going to be able to make it.
Yeah, Jamie had planned to make a report, and I think he got called away today, so we'll look for that next month. Any
Yeah,
legislation?
this is Robbie. I can provide
Yep.
a little bit of notes from the meeting. So there was a survey that was taken about the current training structure in Iowa as far as certifying dispatchers, and a lot of this is covered by Iowa Administrative Code 501. I believe it's 13, Chapter 501.13, that defines everything a dispatcher needs to do regarding what they need to do in their first year of employment with a PSAP. And I know Carol can probably speak on that more, given that that is her primary purview, and it does not speak on Iowa NCIC certification. But Jamie can speak more next month, probably on the results of the survey. But as far as the meeting went, which was held in Marshalltown Committee, and again, I think Brenda's on the phone. She can speak on this more. But the focus of this group is to talk about and recommend to the council different things that we can do to supplement not only ILEA's training for new dispatchers and existing dispatchers, but also what we can do to supplement Carol as well. 40 hours is what is mandated by code. Training for a new dispatcher obviously takes a lot longer than 40 hours. So what is the baseline that every dispatcher in the state should know? Should it be mapping skills and cartography and interpretation? Should it be basic call-taking skills, which is, again, taught at the academy? But how can we supplement that? And then what type of structure would that be? So that's kind of the focus of where the committee is going on now. It's more of an advisory role, not only to Carol, of how we can tweak some things at the academy level, but also what kind of guide can we provide to every PSAP through Blake or through this committee to really assist them with forming a training structure and getting their dispatch going so everybody's consistent statewide.
Yeah, very well put, Robbie. I think the only other thing I would add is I think our next step was to do some homework as far as see across the state what other PSAPs, what every PSAP does for training structure.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. And just for those people who aren't familiar with the role of dispatcher, and I only see it from the outside looking in, but in my experience, we're looking at really 2 to 3 years before we have a dispatcher that is really very, comfortable in the role and doing a good job. So, anything that we can do along the way to get that dispatcher to be more comfortable in their job and perform at their best is really what we're thinking about here. Any other comments? Carol, do you have anything that you'd like to add to that?
If anyone has questions about the 40-hour, I'm happy to address those. It's basically code-driven or administrative code. Basically the curriculum and the agenda for the training remains fairly much the same. I try to mirror what APCO does, National APCO. So they have not required emergency management, but they're sort of recommending that. I've added that to the 40-hour within the last couple of years in anticipation of the fact that that will be coming down the pipe probably eventually. And then I myself answer to the Telecommunicator Training Board as well as the director, and we are the ones who determine any changes that might need to be made, whether that's code or whether it's just within the curriculum itself. There is accountability on my part for that. And as many of you know, we don't stop with just the 40-hour. Typically, the Academy does above and beyond that. You've been gracious enough to give us money every year to allow for some extra training so that folks don't have to pay, because money is always an issue. And so we've got advanced telecommunicator training, we've got supervisor training, different things like that. And sometimes they're successful. Sometimes there's not enough folks that can register, whether that's budget driven or more likely not enough staff to backfill. So any questions? I would take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Any legislative issues we need to discuss?
I don't have any issues, but I would just repeat a similar message that between now and November, I guess, is a time to make your contacts with your legislators, whether they're in your party or not, but they should know you by your face, should know your name. I know, it's some are hobbled by their job or position as to what they can or can't do, but, the message you can get through other people, for you too. There's other ways to get the message to the legislators, so.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm always surprised at is when you hear a legislator say that they never hear from anybody. And I think there's a lot of legislators that probably hear from certain groups all the time, but not everyone that's affected in their area. So
I would just, to add to that, I would say I have seen multiple times where the squeaky wheel gets the grease. The silent majority is vastly overruled by the vocal minority. And for those that know me, obviously I'm not afraid to talk to people. But the first time I went to the Capitol, I was like, what in the world am I doing here? But I found that the vast majority of legislators want to hear from you. But what I will say is probably the number one thing, if they start getting a mixed message and we're not all on the same page, they're the mice that stay under the board, or they run, but nothing's going to get done. We've got to have whatever we're after, whenever we're after it, we've got to have a short, simple, common message that we take to them, because you got to remember that they're dealing with literally dozens, if not hundreds of issues, and they aren't experts in all those areas.
thank you. Okay, I have no unfinished business that I'm aware of, and no new business that I'm aware of. Do we have any travel requests, Blake?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I just want to make note, I had asked for travel for the National APCO this month, but I didn't go, so I'm
Okay.
withdrawing that,
Okay,
whatever I need to do officially.
make note of that. Thank you. Okay, do we have any business from the floor? Any business on the phone? Okay, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.